Hey there, guys. How's it going? This is the Piggy Bank podcast. It's the best podcast there ever was.
That's me. I'm Phil with our casual gaming podcast, the Piggy Bank, and that's my terrible Trump impression. Anyway, thank you so much for watching here live on twitch.tv/2PennyGames. We are live every Monday afternoon Central Time. You know, and you can catch us not live, every Saturday morning on YouTube. You watch the VOD/recording, edited recording by my good friend Tavin. Excuse me, I burped right in the mic there. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central. On this show, we like to shoot the shit, talk about video games, have a good time, mini games where we compete against each other. Something a little bit different this week. But before I get into that, let me introduce my friends on the show. On my left here, on your right, we have Tavin Bothel.
What's poppin', players? We're back with some Piggy Bank. Very excited for today.
Live and in person right here. And then
excited.
to my right, your left on the screen, we have Connor Elliott.
Yeah, it's me. Go on to the next thing. I'm done. I'm 5 beers in.
That's like a beer and a half. Definitely a beer and a half, you know. But you know,
and I'm just done.
But anyway,
I would be like a little like annoyed if you drank 5 of my beers.
Yeah, like, well, Tavin, you
like Connor, you drank half my beer. Like,
well, you know, like I did say, we do like to play mini games on the show, but we doing something a little bit different, and I'm going to throw it to Tavin to explain what exactly we're doing today.
Indeed.
Because he made us do it. And
Discord,
begrudgingly, against our will.
fucked up my thing.
It was one of those things where Tavin was demanding more of us than we've ever demanded of him, and just for a game, single game.
How dare somebody on this fucking podcast drag us to success and try and find a way to where we don't have to work these shitty ass 9-to-5s anymore?
I don't even work. 9 to 5.
Neither do I.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, like
there's a very definitive
shitty jobs. So like, what do you fucking want?
I like my job.
But I'll fucking drag you bitches kicking and screaming to the fucking success.
I like my job. I work in a movie theater. I get free movies.
Free popcorn.
Gentlemen.
And ices.
Gentlemen, I thought it'd be interesting if we switched things up this week. And I hit y'all in a group chat, and I said, hey, what if we had ourselves a little elevator pitch for something that we all enjoy? And of course, I landed on Mass Effect. All three of us, big fans of the Mass Effect series. All three of us would really, really like some more Mass Effect.
I should go
in our lives. Exactly. And so I thought, I had thought of, well, what should be the next Mass Effect game? And of course, we could just have had like a typical conversation about that. But what's the fun in that? You know, we want great dialogue and characters, romance and stakes.
I want
and all
great
these
dialogue.
Yeah.
I love Mass Effect. I love the Reapers. They're great. I love what they do. I love what they do to the universe, the galaxy.
Great unifiers. Those
I
Reapers.
think they bring everybody together, and they want everyone to be the same.
President Trump, what are your opinions on reports going around that the collector attacks are actually a secret covert operation by the Reapers?
I would say you're a terrible reporter.
That's it?
It hits. But
very well.
Here's the thing, though, Tavin.
Yeah.
You referred to him as President Trump, despite the fact that
Oh my
he's
God,
not
that's the
president.
most right-wing thing you've ever said.
So you believe that he was undermined in the election?
That's not how that works at all. You call former presidents by their title. They don't lose the title of president. They were always president. You still call Obama President Obama.
I would
talk to Obama.
I wouldn't. No, I'm not going to do that at all.
Now, of course, I was also in character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a journalist asking for questions. You know.
That impression did take us back in time to when he was the president.
That too.
Fair enough.
Reaper invasion and Donald Trump's presidency.
Well, I mean,
everyone talks about. If we're really talking
everyone
about
talks about COVID, but no one remembers the Reaper invasion.
You know, Harbinger and President Trump. Really, you're picking between the lesser of two evils here.
Well, what does he say? It's
assuming control.
Direct.
You're comparing him to Harbinger. But the whole thing is that in terms of the politics of when Donald Trump was running, the analogy he always talks about.
All right.
I didn't say that.
Would you say that he's Harbinger, or would you say he's sovereign? Sovereign or Harbinger?
Trump?
Yeah.
He's the little fucking idiot collector general who gets controlled by Harbinger.
Both orange.
Both orange.
You just undermined what you just said earlier.
Anyways.
I don't like what Connor said. We should bleep that.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You gotta bleep that.
Don't like it.
I mean, like, you said he's Harbinger, and then
You
you say, well,
make
he's
me
not
work so much more than I want to work, you know? You make me work so much.
Are you going to cut it out?
I'm going to put a bleep on it.
What? What I said that was wrong. What you were no, you were being incorrect because you said he was Harbinger, then all of a sudden he's not Harbinger. It's like you don't
Can
know
I
what
get
you're
back
saying.
to the Can I get back to the topic?
Anyway,
at hand?
Mass Effect.
Fine.
We like
Mass Effect. So, gentlemen, I proposed that Connor and I each give our own personal Mass Effect pitches. So, what would we want to see from the new Mass Effect game, or a new Mass Effect game? And I thought we would pitch it to young Philip here, and then he would between the two pitches. And of course, we're gonna have a lot of conversation. It's gonna be very, very talk heavy, poking holes in ideas and trying to develop these ideas as much as we can. Right?
Because we know all about game development. We
Indeed, we know everything.
everything there's to know.
No, everything.
Experts.
Experts.
I think-
Anyways,
yeah.
so
I probably know the most.
I hit the group
of
chat
anybody.
and I said, "Hey guys, here's some things that we should write out. Here's some criteria, some things I want to see from these pitches." Right. First being what the game is. What genre is it? A likeness to another game, perhaps? Is it like a Soulsborne or a Returnal type game, a 3D platform, etc.? And also give it a title, something fun, right? Give us like a brief plot synopsis. This is really like just kind of a plot pitch to be like, hey, this is where we're at, right? And what I'm specifically looking at is when and where does this take place? What is the main objective of the game? And then like a 1 to 2 sentence state of the galaxy. Like where is the galaxy at? Specifically, how is this in relation to the original trilogy of games? Is it before the trilogy, after the trilogy, during the trilogy, something like that, right? Obviously, gameplay mechanics are gonna be fleshed out, obviously through just what the genre is and what's unique about it. But I thought let's find a couple of unique gameplay mechanics, something that makes it stand out, something that maybe comes from the DNA of Mass Effect, and then maybe some new ideas that you'd like to introduce or would like to see in Mass Effect experiment with. Introduce some type of mini game, something to break up the gameplay, maybe something to just kind of add some variety, some spice to your just general gameplay loop. That'll be kind of fun. And then finally, who's developing it? Just a quick little idea of like, oh, I think this would be really good from that developer XYZ.
You said that was optional. I didn't do it. I lied. I did do it.
I said this one might be optional, and if you didn't want to do it, you should have talked to me about that beforehand.
I did. Oh!
But you never fucking answer a goddamn thing in these goddamn group chats.
And did I do everything as according to the list?
You just let me and fucking Phil talk to each other.
Because that's how. Here's the thing. I understand that, but I know what's being said. I'm the evil eye watching.
Do you know
over
what's being
everything.
said?
Did I do this?
He's always like the last to respond. Like we have to ping everyone, and then we also have to separately ping him.
And I can't tell you how many times I ping everyone, and then I go into his room and hey, fucking stupid, what do you want with this? And he goes, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Son of a bitch. Anyways, gentlemen, I have to take a time. Oh,
a damn dumb bitch. We break the formula 1 second, and you can't even stick with
I would say like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes in.
That's definitely more than that. There's a lot of chump talk there in the beginning, but that's fine. Here we go. So, gentlemen, I'm going to start with my pitch here. Open up my notes. And I'd like to welcome you boys to Mass Effect: The Great War.
You gave it a name.
I gave it a name. I told you to give it a name. Gentlemen, this is an XCOM-inspired game. This is very much like a tactics type game, but very much in the formula of XCOM, less so in the formula of like a Fire Emblem, right? But we are going to grab a couple of Fire Emblem things here, so just stay tuned for that. You know, it's going to be fun. Where are we? We are well after the Mass Effect trilogy, probably about 1,000 years later. I don't want any returning characters. None of them. Liara, get them out of here. Krogans, get them out of here. Well, I don't want them. They're not here. All right?
No Krogans at all.
Well, you know, Krogans, but not like your Grunt or your Rex or anything. You know, things like that.
Yeah.
No. The Krogans are here. The Krogans are here, just not those kinds, right? Well after the trilogy, we're gonna go ahead and assume that the synthesis ending is canon here. All right, that is the universe that we're living in right now. That's not what the synthesis ending is, but okay.
They're all connected.
We're all connected. We're all connected. You know, we're all sentient. We're all connected, and so forth. This is so that we can still have things like Geth and Quarians, and everybody's hanging out and doing stuff. And the galaxy is engulfed in civil war / galactic war, whatever. The whole galaxy's at war here. And the crux of the issue here, the thing that has driven us to this point, is that there is a desire for a new form of galactic government, one that's better representation for all races, all right? So we're going to get away with the whole council thing. These are council races, these types of things. That's what one side wants. It is no council races. Let's have some more democratic election type things going on here, whereas there is the other faction is trying to stay true to these standards that have stood for so long and been effective for so long and built out this great galactic civilization. Why are we throwing this away, and so forth? But of course, throughout the trilogy, you see there's quite an indifference between how council races are treated and how non-council races are treated. Indeed. These will break down into factions, something generic, probably. I'm not, the most I'm not flushing out full plot details here. Okay. And so one faction will be like the loyalists. These are the people who really, really want things to stay the same. And then a new republic. So new loyalists versus the new republic, right? Races are split right down the middle. For the most part, they probably land where you expect them to be. But there's probably some switcheroo things happening on right here. For example, the Thane's race. The Krell? No. The Drell. The Drell. Would land on the council side, right? And things like that. So a little bit of mix and match. It's not straight up the big three versus everybody else. Humanity is split on this issue. Because of course they are, and they cannot decide which side they're on, so they're on both sides, right? And the first thing you do in this game is choose what side you're on. This immediately locks you into one of two paths, all right? And will limit you in some ways. This is one way to kind of keep your own playthrough unique, but also make it more fun to replay and have a different experience. Exactly, 100%. Yeah. You play as Admiral Knight, leader of an elite task force set to complete covert operations critical to the success of the war. Yes, Phil. Like the medieval knight, the
K.
K. Yeah, the silent K there.
Wasn't sure if you're gonna try to throw it.
No. What?
G. They both have G in them.
Why would you have
silent G in the beginning?
There's technically a silent G in knight anyway.
Yeah.
Beginning of the word.
All right.
It could be something cluttering.
Good night.
G. Exactly.
Anyways.
Exactly.
There is a character creator. You will build your Admiral Knight, male, female, typical stuff. But, excuse me, there's going to be a much more stripped back character creator. It's not going to be super in-depth. And that's because you're not going to see your character a whole lot. So maybe this even, real basic stuff, real simple stuff, just to kind of get the general feel of who you want to create here. But we're not going in-depth by molding the face so much, in fact, it may be so basic that it's just a list of 12 presets that you can choose from, and you can choose one of these 12 presets and things like that. Yeah. That'd be a thing, maybe a headcanon. On top of that, this is a big change. Big change. The character's not voiced. This is going to be very much like a Fallout 3 style of thing. Mostly in a sort of implied first-person perspective, because when you play an XCOM game, they're Commander, and you're zooming into the menus and stuff. We're very much going to have that, right? But it's going to be like this, but for Mass Effect and so forth.
You're talking
yeah. Sure. Yeah. I'm thinking more Fallout because you're not going to see your character that much, But there are going to be critical cutscenes to the game that are much more cinematic, in which your Admiral Knight is present in those things. Not really going to talk that whole much, or really at all, and so forth. This just you still get the flavor. You still get to kind of create a character and create an arc here. You are definitely still creating relationships with your crew members and so forth, but we're going to get to that here in a minute. Each element of development is controlled by a recruitable party member. There's a set 3 characters who control basic functions at the beginning. These 3 are exclusive to each side of the war. So those like basic 3 things that you'll get at the beginning of every type of game like this. It'll be like squad recruitment, tactics and recon, and then like R&D, right? Those are like your big 3, right? Those 3 are exclusive to, and you get them right at the start of the game. Those are exclusive to whatever side you picked. So on like it might be like a Turian, Asari, Solarian, or
Fates.
yeah. So it could, like, if you choose the Loyalists, like, it'll be an Asari, a Turian, and a Solarian, for example. If you choose New Republic, it'll be a Quarian, maybe another human, maybe a Geth, things like that. Fun things like that. Between those 3. This will be set in, that'll be figured out in development and so forth as we develop these characters. Everybody else, for things like weapons development or armor developments or biotic developments and so on and so forth, all the little like accoutrements are going to be heralded by characters you recruit in the field. These are going to be special, crucial, critical missions that your squad is going to go out, and very high stakes missions as you go and you recruit these people and bring them in to do that. These are going to be shared between the 2 different playthroughs just to kind of alleviate the pressures of creating a bunch of different characters and so forth. And you gotta have a little bit of repetition between the 2 just because of resources to go around and so forth. So these are guys that you go in and recruit. You can fail these, so maybe there's different variants of these characters. So like maybe there's like 2 or 3 biotic development specialists that you can get, and then you can fail it, and the other side will get it, and it'll make your fight harder, et cetera, et cetera. So the sooner you get it, the quicker you'll shut them off to type things. Every one of these, I call them party members. These are the ones that like you'll go into the special thing and you'll talk to them, and it'll be full dialogue, but instead of a dialogue wheel, it'll be more of like dialogue selection, like a Fallout 3 type style thing. That's kind of the style we're going for here. In terms of how dialogue is selected. And you'll have full conversations with them, and you'll tell them, kind of what you're wanting and not wanting, and what you think of their personal journeys and stories and all these things right here. And you will be developing relationships, and every party member is romanceable.
Sorry if you mentioned, but when you build your character, stats, charisma.
No.
Because you're the commander character. I figured that wasn't really like your character isn't an active.
I'm just asking information.
Yeah.
I want to default no. Is where I want to default and just kind of keep it general, kind of just talking and finding paths that way, as opposed, because that's not really there is like charisma points in Mass Effect and stuff, but I think the focus here is going to be the tactics gameplay, and so it's maybe someone more clever than me can develop a way to make that make sense, systems wise, but I can't think of a way to make that work. Each party member will have 2 loyalty-styled missions. One is going to be personal, and the other one is functional. Both are weighed equally to progress relationships. I would say you don't need both to be able to enter a romantic one, but you probably need the personal one over the functional one. Otherwise, they're probably just going to be really good friends with you or whatever. This is going to be like a person who's like, Admiral, I just found out my uncle got kidnapped by the other side. Can I know we're busy, but can we spare the time to go save them? Or Admiral, like, my home is under attack, this, that, and the third. Can we go do something here? Things like that. Where a functional one is where the party member will come to you and say, Admiral, we have a opportunity here to get a great piece of technology or a great piece of advancement here for what I'm doing in my area of development, right? This will help our troops in this way, that way, or the other way, but it is going to cost us this much to go do it. Go ahead.
And if you
I'm about to get into that right here. So all missions advance time in game, right? And then there's going to be a bunch of different tiers of missions here. There's going to be a bunch of lower class skirmishes that litter the galaxy and are pretty low risk. You're not really going to leveling up, grinding, developing your squads and so forth. I'll say there's going to be a difference between party members and your squads. Squads are your soldiers that you actually send into the field. Party members stay on the ship with you and are helping direct all of the functions here with you. Your squads, you're going to build them out like an XCOM, very much like an XCOM, and they're going to be a variety of different playable units: soldiers, biotics, engineers, hybrid class. Oh, this was it. Biotics and engineers, etc. The big three, accessible to everybody. Hybrid classes are exclusive to playthroughs unless you unlock certain things through progression, like doing your functional loyalty missions and so forth like that. So, one side will start off with a sentinel, and then the other guy will start off with one of the other ones. I can't remember all the class names right now. But there is ways to work around and kind of get some of your favorite things going on right here. Vanguard, yeah, things like that. And your squads are going to be able to form relationships with each other. This is going to work like how a Fire Emblem works, where as they work together, if they're huddled on a piece of cover and are taking out enemies, they're going to score points with each other and sort of develop relationships and friendships with this. This is going to be real basic. Yeah.
Work well together, so
type shit. Yeah, 100%. So this is gonna be more basic. They're not like exchanging dialogue really. You're gonna name them and customize them and create them like that, like just like in an XCOM game. But they're not like characters. But like you'll have Bobby and Sarah work well together, and so you're going to keep pairing them together and making them move throughout the field together, and that'll keep their thing up to make them work better together, and they'll get different bonuses off of each other depending upon their classes. And then there will be like a subsystem where you can engage them in full-on romantic relationship just with the two of them or whatever, and so forth. I think it'd be fun if you have a romantic relationship. Yeah. Squad members can die, but only in specific parts of the game. We'll get to that in a second. And so I think it'd be kind of funny if like, oh yeah, I had a partner, we fell in love, got married, and then they died at this battle. So then that part of that character gets locked off, and those bonuses are lost. Kind of wanting you to keep these people strong. Squad mates can die. Okay. Your party members are fine. So that we can keep the plot moving. Right. You know what I'm saying? So there will be lower class skirmishes that kind of for grinding and getting resources and stuff like that. There's going to be story missions that are mostly like for developing plot and stuff. These are going to kind of be middle of the road type things, not like super high risk, but maybe every once in a while something, when you're in an XCOM game and then suddenly something drops in and it makes the stakes of that mission so much higher, and you go, oh shit, we got to go type shit. It'll be kind of like that. But then there will be critical missions, and these critical missions have timers on them. You got to go get to these things. These will include your loyalty missions, both types, right? Where you're on a timer, you can go out and do different skirmishes and things, but if you don't get to it in time, the other side's going to get whatever bonuses they got from that. Gotcha. And it'll make skirmishes and things harder from here on out. Critical missions, however, are going to be the types of missions where your squad members can die. Lower class skirmishes, they're going to be fine. It's going to be the like infirmary type thing. But if they lose all their health points in a skirmish, they're going to just go to the infirmary. They'll be out for 2 or 3 missions and then come back, right? But in critical missions, they can die and be gone forever. Now, I'm going to be a dickhead about this. I want to limit save scumming as much as possible. So when you enter a critical mission, the player knows this, there will be a save overriding your personal save every turn. So if they're gone, you gotta live with those consequences.
So
No, we're gonna get tough here. I might include a difficulty setting at the beginning that you can just turn off or whatever. Yeah, but I want that risk, that tension you have in an XCOM game where you go, fuck, man, I just lost my best player.
Can I ask a very question? You mentioned, is this a actual like timer, or is it days? Quote unquote?
So we might label it something. It's all going to be based off of mission progression and so forth like that. So if you're fucking around with the with the skirmishes or whatever. So it's the equivalent of like 3-4 missions or something like that. You know what I mean?
Just because that's one thing like I would hate if it was number of days outings.
Yeah, time is only progressed through missions. Gotcha. By completing missions, time is only progressed that way. And so main story missions will fluctuate between just kind of being story missions that are fun and meant to kind of engage in the mechanics and so forth. And then sometimes you'll go on a story mission and it'll turn critical. This is because a new threat has entered the field. Hey, we don't know what this is. This is a new thing that we're not ready for. Things just got serious. It's going to be very clear. Probably like, I don't know, like a red border will hit the screen of like, hey, gotcha. Shit's real now. Type shit. Caution. Yeah. And then sometimes you'll go into a story mission knowing they're critical. Gotcha. You know? And so forth like that. Your overall objective, I kind of see this sort of as like almost like a galactic conquest via Battlefront 2, old school Battlefront 2, where like you're going to be fighting for territory and planets and stuff. You can lose. It is possible for you to lose the game and just it's over. And in that, and to diversify my gameplay here, there's 2 direct forms of gameplay here. There's the normal squad base, we're on the ground, this is going to be the majority of the missions, right? But your main mission hub, you know, in XCOM, it's just like a base on Earth or whatever, right?
Almost like a deal.
Right. Yeah. Here, it's a freighter. Your freighter moves. And we might have travel time be incorporated in our timers. I don't know yet. That would kind of be a question to kind of develop or anything like that. But your freighter moves, and so your freighter can be attacked. We're going to have space missions alongside this. And so that'll be another arm of R&D development and another party member. This guy works on ships and stuff. And, this is our engineer who, builds us crafts and so forth like that. So this is another form of gameplay where it's going to kind of work similarly, but there's going to be some different gameplay adjustments. I think we're going to probably split it into 3 layers to kind of differentiate vertical layers, that is, so forth. So you know how, like, in XCOM, you have to, like, jump up on a building to get an advantage on that or like that. It doesn't really work that way in this mode where, like, being higher doesn't necessarily give you an advantage. Being on the same level makes attacks more dangerous to you. Whereas being on different layers or levels will fluctuate your hit % chance and stuff like that. And then obviously, like, movement will be more free and so forth. And then there will be different spaceship units that kind of operate differently. I'm imagining, yes, there's like a fighter class that just shoots forward. There's one that can shoot in diagonal, sort of like chessboard type things almost. And then there's one that like attacks circles around it. So you'll have this one ship. Of course, all of these are still controlled by the same squad members, so that progression with the squad members still are kept. So, Johnny and Sarah and Kevin, hop into a ship and go do this thing. But Kevin might have a AoE ship, so I'm going to send him directly into the middle of everything and then use Johnny and Sarah to support him so that he doesn't get overwhelmed, and he's just going to blast damage while they eliminate key targets and stuff like that.
It's not as exact, but that's kind of space combat that's resembling Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader.
Yeah.
Less controlling units and more one that operates on the same field of movement and firing as that.
Yeah.
Different angles.
So
angle specific.
So in that, I think we have a good synergy and a good there's enough buy-in for the player to want to care about all of these elements, whether it's R&D development because it's tied to character progression and developing relationships, and of course this story is still going to be good, right? And then weighing your options in war of like, hey, sometimes a character approaches you and says, this is why I'm giving them 2 opportunities here. Sometimes a character will approach you and say, Admiral, my cousin has joined the war. We need to do this covert op to kidnap him, basically, and recruit him onto our side type shit, right? But they may do that right as a story critical mission is happening. So, hey, man, I would like to help, but that's going to make us have such a tougher fight in the path ahead. And of course, the ultimate goal is to win the war, right? The ending is going to be I think the intro and the ending are going to be pretty generic type things. You know, you play like old like KOTOR games, and it's like, all right, the beginning it's a lot of setup and stuff, and then the ending doesn't matter so much. It's more of the journey that you got there, right? Yeah. So it's almost like almost like color swap looking endings, or just like real generic looking things, or whatever. It's the journey that got you there, like that players are going to care about. And so that brings me to studio. I think Firaxis is an obvious inspiration here, right? Like clearly system-wise, they make the most sense. They're the ones who are most developed in what I'm talking about. And it feels like mechanically they could really do what I'm talking about here with flying colors. I think if we really want to get interesting, if we really want to get a little experimental, if we really want to get a team that, yes, can do the mechanics stuff, maybe not as well as Firaxis, but still does it at a high level, but can also incorporate good writing, because I don't think Firaxis games have good writing, right? And that's what you want in a Mass Effect game is characters, right? I suggest, we're EA, we got big bucks, right? Let's go ahead and just flush Vanillaware with a bunch of cash, get them to stock up on some time to develop their systems out and get them to really, really work on their mechanics, and then have that writing actually be pretty solid with characters you fucking care about and want to see progress forward and so forth. Again, like, it doesn't have to be writing on par with the trilogy, but it needs to have enough buy-in and enough character charm to where you're like, I do want to see where that goes, type thing. Also, you know, I know Phil liked Unicorn Overlord, so, you know. But, like, I at the same time, like, I think that gives us the opportunity to, one, have a new mechanical twist on Mass Effect, still give us enough roots, because they still play around with that dialogue and character-based type stuff that you see in, like, Unicorn Overlord and, what's the other one they're known for? The last one they did? 13 Sentinels, that type thing. I think it also allows us to get a little fun with the art style in this game. Being ultra realistic is kind of meh, right? You know, I think we can have a little bit more cartoony elements of it. I think there needs to meet in the middle. It's not. I don't think it should be like an anime girl type style game.
Make the joke that Tavin wants to.
No, I don't. I don't want to. I don't want to see that. Right? I don't. But I think maybe a little less, like maybe a little more cartoony than how an XCOM game looks is kind of where I'm shooting here. Just a little more cartoony. You know, because XCOM. You know, they're not like the most hyper-realistic graphics, but, you know, they try to be grounded in it. And so I think there should be a groundedness to it in our designs and our art. But let's have a little bit of fun, because we are still on a fun space adventure. That's my game. Where are we at? Where are the holes? Where are things that we want to see developed out more?
I think my last question. And
My big thing is, you might have to tread over water again, but combat, is it like very much like XCOM, like in the same way
when you're on the ground? Yeah, it's very much like XCOM. Like, that guy has powers and ability sets, and those are on cooldowns. This guy is proficient in snipers. This guy's proficient in pistols. This guy's proficient in shotguns and things like that. If you have a Krogan on your team, of course, that's going to kind of tell you what type of team member this is. But I think that also allows the player to diversify and build the squad they really, really want, you know, and use the races in ways that you want, right? So, like, I'm going to have more biotic players. I'd probably have like 2 biotic players on my team, and then like a scout and maybe something to do a little bit heavy dutier. But Connor, you would want like Geth Legionnaires or heavy Krogan soldiers, or like a really solid base of Turian soldiers or something like that, right? So like and then of course, like, you can kind of use humans to just kind of fill in your spots, right?
Jack of all trades, as you had said.
Yeah, exactly. I said that earlier. That was my idea too.
Yeah.
I was gonna.
Too similar.
We're pivoted to this.
You decide what's getting the axe and what's getting the money.
Yeah. That's a very strong.
Well, mine is not a strategy game. It is a horror game. I was asked for the title. Yep. I was asked for the title, Mass Effect Isolation. So
Inspired.
Wow. It's very inspired. So it's single player. I'm not going to bother with a multiplayer horror game, but it's set during the events of Mass Effect 3, particularly the Reaper invasion of London, which is the main like point of attack from the Reapers. I don't want to exclude people who haven't played Mass Effect. Giant evil sentient race that basically makes zombies but robotic.
Everything's
some sorts
gray.
by humans. Yeah. It infects people basically. And that's really what's key is, I'll get into that in a second. So you play as, similar to you, there's a lot of like aspects of Mass Effect that I included in mine that you also included in yours.
Yeah.
Like the Mass Effect isms are going to be the same across just different games. So you choose male or female. It's not one where you create how they look, and they're always going to be human, but, which flavor of male or, like a man or a woman.
They're going to be a little more a la Prey? Arcane's Prey a little bit?
Yeah, kind of like that, exactly. With more personality.
Okay, all right, I'm into it.
Focus more on that, which I'll get into in a second. Specifically, you're in the Alliance Navy, but you're a trainee. So you're not exactly a skilled N7 operative or whatever.
Okay.
Particularly, you're not choosing your class either. This is all set, because there's going to be a focus of narrative. You're the engineer class. So an engineer trainee class who is found himself on London trying to just get off the planet, because they don't want to be there any longer.
You want the player.
Exactly.
Like you want
Got to set some parameters, some limitations going on. I like that he's a trainee. It almost makes me feel like Resident Evil 7. Where like the shooting may not be so solid. You've got very limited abilities and stuff going on in that.
Well, we'll get to the abilities eventually.
An aspect of like.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm into it.
Yeah, well, it's first person. Third person for when cutscenes are happening, when dialogue is happening. No, not even dialogue, more cutscenes. Because at the end of the day, Mass Effect is pretty cinematic, and I want that to translate over to this in those moments that are, you're in the calm, if what you could say is calm, is sneaking around, evil-looking alien type things. But it kind of, missions will typically end on like some kind of like crazy high octane moment, because regardless of what kind of game it is, this being a more subtle horror game, it's taking place during a massive invasion of the universe, of the galaxy, and so it's going to have a bit of spectacle to it. But first person, fight or flight gameplay. So you're going to have to choose how you want to handle a situation. Sometimes you'd have to do it a certain way. You don't really got an option. But most of the time, you do have an option. You have a pistol, and you have equipment to kind of help you, make up for what would be a lack of damage. Also, a lack of being able to use the gun properly, since you're just a trainee fighting against, pretty dangerous beings. And so you would have your pistol, but you would also have, your basically hologram creators to try and distract enemies, your noise makers, your stun grenades, your disruptor grenades that can, make someone just give you a little bit of a leeway so you can get away from them. But the thing is that in Mass Effect 3 and 2, really, enemies will have armor instead of having traditional health. Some of them will have shields and then a health bar. Some of them would have barriers, which is your psionic shield, effectively, and then a health bar. And depending on the unit that would have these kinds of health bars and whatnot, will determine how you have to deal with them. So you have your typical, what do you call them? Husks? The humans?
Yeah, the husks, yeah.
Those are kind of like, I call it Mass Effect Isolation because it has some similarities to Alien Isolation, which is what I'm riffing off of, because I didn't think of the name. But you treat them like androids. They're ones that you'd have basic melee, I forgot about that part, but nothing like substantial. Most of the time you're just going to have a gun, and you're going to have to keep away from these guys. And if they get you, you're going to take some damage. But you can kill them relatively easily, but in the same way of when you get into a firefight in Mass Effect, it's not just 1 or 2, 3 guys. So when you do that, you better either lose track of whoever you're engaging or trying to get away from, or kill them as quick as possible, because other things are going to come, and you're not going to be able to deal with that. So even though it's a fight or flight situation, the fight will eventually turn into flight. You're not a badass here. You're just trying to survive. You're not even trying to do a holier than thou mission of I want to help the resistance. You just want to get the fuck out. You don't care about anything else. You're terrified. You're shitting your pants. But to go more into like the enemy types, for example, and really it's tied into the class that you are, because Engineer has a couple of different abilities. They have Overload, which gets rid of shields, Dampening, which kind of reduces the effects of psionic powers. You, of course, have things like Hacking, which I'll get into that a little bit differently. But when it comes to dealing with enemies, for example, you have the Turian Reapers, who have shields. You can't fight them with your pistol unless you have the ability, not on cooldown, of Overload. You can get rid of their shields, and then, with difficulty, and with ammo, a pretty good chunk of it, you can take down enemies that would otherwise just have shields. You're not just only having to fight against husks, but it's resource heavy.
So if a Reaper unit with like a biotic, fuck, I had it in my head. What do they call it?
Barrier.
A biotic barrier comes in. Are you just kind of fucked in these scenarios, or?
You have to.
Generally. So the whole thing is, you have the Batarians. Like the Batarians have barriers, don't they? Who have fucking barriers? There's one race that has
like Asari type things. Yeah.
Is the Asari the only one?
For the most
Krogers are armor.
part.
Krogers are armor, I believe.
Yeah. Well, Krogans, to my knowledge, kind of turn into the brute type enemies, the bigger guys. Oh, yeah. And then Connor's right, because when they invade in Mass Effect 3, the first thing they hit is the Batarians. Mm-hmm. So that's the the red dudes with the big red growths on their back.
They have health. You're right. They just have health, so they'd be like a harder version of husks. Not as tough as the Turian the Turian Reapers, but
they're gonna take the whole clip as opposed to a couple of bullets.
Exactly. Yeah. But to your point, Banshees is where dampening comes into effect. It's something that you want to reserve for them, and these effects are all going to have long cooldowns. So it's not like you can just keep on doing it over and over again. So if you're fighting against, going back to the Turians, you only be able to deal with one at a time. So if there's two, get one out so you can have an easier time getting around them or hiding from them properly, but you're not going to be able to take both of them out. With Banshees, they're terrifying. They screech, they teleport, and they're pretty, hard to get away from in the base game. They can sneak up on you really well, and that's where dampening comes into effect. It's ones where you eliminate their ability to do dodges, and you get rid of their barrier as well. But the barrier isn't really substantial; it's more flavorful because you can't kill Banshees. You're not skilled enough.
This is my next question. Okay,
yeah, you cannot kill Banshees, so they're just ones that are very hard to shake off. You can do things to resist against them, but really, you just need to make sure
So this would be like a Titan character, like out of Resident Evil or something.
In a way, yeah, because it's you want to avoid them, but if you do, they're incredibly hard to get away from because of their teleporting, the little teleporting they do. You get rid of that for a small amount of time, just so you can have a little bit of leeway to run away. And those would be the hardest enemies to fight because you have to have resource to deal with them. Otherwise, just be smart dodging them. But it also extends to enemies with armor, where you can't do a single thing to them. You just have to avoid them. They're the classic, don't interact, just hide, and they're going to be easier to stealth around, but if you get caught by them, they're also incredibly hard to shake, and you have no resources to solve that problem. So it's like Alien, where in the sense of, if you get caught in a bad situation with an alien and have no resources to deal with them, you're almost dead. You're just going to have to fucking deal with it. Obviously, this extends to the Krogan, the giant big
the alien doesn't give a fuck about a bullet.
No, exactly. And neither would these guys with heavy armor do either. But you would do these things to try and, use the flavor of classic Mass Effect to try and, make a little bit of an easier time for yourself, in addition to using the equipments. Something happen?
I don't have a fucking film mic on that fucking set. God damn it.
Uh-oh.
So fucking annoying.
So it wasn't being picked up?
For me.
Yeah. Anyways, keep going.
Sorry, Phil.
Okay. There's a second-class citizen over here.
Yeah, but, hacking. Hacking's the other big thing that engineers do. It's going to be the kind of sub-gameplay element other than just the classic avoiding, fighting small amounts of enemies and whatnot. You would have a mini-game kind of, I think near Automata, but rather one that's focused on twin-stick shooters, combat. It's more like maze traversal. And
God, I wish this motherfucker played Sly 2.
So some good example to go from there?
The little hacker in that. It's a twin-stick shooter.
It would be basically like solving mazes. Each one's different. They're procedurally generated, so there's no typical guide to go to. So you just got to do them using your brain power. And in the same way, doing puzzles in your little like hacking bits in Alien Isolation wouldn't pause the game. Neither would this. And so it's one of those things that you'd have to be a lot, pretty heavily skilled at to try and survive.
If you fail the hacking minigame, is there an alarm that alerts people to your presence?
No, it's more just like the issue of like you can get come upon by any enemy at any point in time, and so
so
you better hide out.
So things outside of the hacking minigame are happening at the same time. Oh, okay. How long do you foresee these things lasting?
Like you can complete them in like. That's the thing. It's very much efficiency based. Like how good at you are just like being able to navigate a maze like structure.
Okay.
The ones you would draw on. Like you'd have like playmats and your kids.
Right,
yeah, but
so
it's shorter.
Not really more than a couple seconds.
Yeah, like 10 seconds.
Okay.
Usually 10 to 15 seconds. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
15 seconds is a long time.
That's why it's tough. That's why it's nerve wracking of like. It's going to seem longer as well because you're hoping enemies don't come across you.
Yeah.
An element I forgot is the spectacle because it's going to be a smaller game. You're not going to have wide open spaces or big fucking explosions and crazy stuff going on behind you all the time. Sometimes you'll have that happening far off in the distance and it's like, oh shit, I'm in an invasion zone. But in moments where you are successfully able to hide or at the very least you alarm enemies around you, the ones that come in are same way you would fight them in Mass Effect, large hordes. And they just be like, you'd have to find a place to hide or run away to a location you can close off a door. And if you're able to see just, outside of your locker or underneath your table or whatever, you'll see a bunch of different types of Reaper-infested aliens like pass by you, like looking around for you. And it'd be hyper realistic, graphics. So it amps up the horror of what a Reaper-infested alien would look like.
Some body horror stuff.
Exactly, yes. And you would even play around with that more, because you brought that up, of not just making them look all like the same exact model, which of course for Mass Effect they have to do because they're throwing so many of you at a single time. But you can have them have a variety of different flavors that kind of are disgusting looking. Like their bodies have been warped and like have metal basically coming out of them. Just to, amp up that creepiness factor.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, I would hope it would be. But Mass Effect, this is a Mass Effect game. And you like your other people. Your other friends.
I'm going to have a lot of questions to this part, so I'm going to let you go.
You have a hub world.
Okay.
You basically, you kind of accrue. It's not really a survivor management system. You just, through the narrative, meet people who you can recruit. Now, when you recruit them, they'll give you, like, bonuses. So, for example, the dampening I was talking about. You could find, like, a Asari and have them at your hub world. And they kind of, like, give you a little bit of training, and so if you use dampening against an Asari Reaper, you can make it go for longer periods of time. Or maybe you can like stun them because it messes up their psionic abilities so much so that they can't even move and makes it a little bit easier to get around. Krogan, where you can kind of like you learn to create like items that could not kill, because you still can't kill the armored enemies, but completely stop them in their tracks for an extended period of time. And along with all of these bonuses that you can get, Quarians being able to, hack a little bit more efficiently. Maybe you get a little bit of a head start on not having things happen around you in real space. So you can just get that. Maybe if you're, running away from things, you have a little bit of a leeway to complete a puzzle, and you're not just having to wait until you're kicking all enemies off your trail before you could do something like that. It go that route. And they would have like personal asks, quests, effectively. And it would get up your relationship with them. And the more you get your relationship up with them, these increases to how effective your equipment is, your hacking, your psionic abilities, your overloading abilities, whatever, the skill tree, so to speak, would expand itself the more you became
So is your skill tree your relationships?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
It's not like I'm
not spending points. I'm negotiating with people to increase my chance. Okay, I like that.
There are people you can miss because you're hiding, and they're survivors as well.
Yeah.
Even if they're like a Krogan, he's like, I'm not. He's the type of Krogan who's like, I'm not going to live through this. I'm going to survive too.
Yeah.
And you're kind of trying to get that group just by, because at the end of the day, you're a member of like N7. Your character would have personality, and they want to help people. That's like their idea. They joined the Alliance Navy, I should say, not N7, to do something better with their lives. And so, if you happenstance come across some NPC, some character, you can save them. And
how are you justifying so many races on Earth?
Well, there's like, you still meet races. Like they're not like never there. And I'm not like, a lot of it's not
because the overwhelming majority of characters you would see are going to be human.
Exactly, and that's why they would mostly be. Which is why I'd kind of like perceive it in a way where a lot of the humans don't really do things related to your abilities. Maybe your gun, like one of them is a gunsmith or something like that, and they can improve the effectiveness of your gun, how well you're able to aim it or whatnot. Or maybe it's a soldier who's kind of lost the will to fight, kind of helps you out a little bit in being a little bit more efficient in throwing grenades, shooting your weapon, and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of them would be human. You're right, and they wouldn't really have a lot of impact. It's more the ability of like, oh, you're finding people and you're helping them.
We're gonna start branching out. Almost, I keep coming back to Prey. Yeah, because that's it sounds more Prey inspired.
That element,
or it sounds more like an Arcane game than it does sound like an Alien Isolation game.
Yeah, it's more like the stealth horror elements that are like an Alien Isolation game.
Yeah,
more like every other like function is more related to I guess Prey.
So who's developing this?
Well, before we get into that, actually, I want to know more about mission structure.
Yeah, so it's basic missions. When you go on them, you have like a list of like optional objectives.
Okay.
Sometimes they're related to.
So let me be a little more granular in my question. Yeah. Is this going to be set up sort of like how a Dishonored is set up, where like,
yes.
Oh, okay, and then characters will be like, hey, we need. Okay, so you mentioned before this guy is focused. Your character is focused on getting out.
Yes,
but not focused on the cause. How do you justify coming back to a hub world where you keep meeting recurring characters?
Well, they stay
but we don't care about the plight of these characters.
Well, it's really just like a byproduct of like your character. He or she wants to get off.
Okay,
and it's a way that can facilitate others to get off. You'll do it. You're just not like going out of your way.
You're just forced to work with military personnel, and the military's like, hey, we need this if we're going to talk about that.
And it's narrative. Like, this is going to be a narrative-focused game. So your character's going to have personality.
And you're like, come on, motherfucker.
Well, they would, but in the sense of like, you're getting off the planet, but you can't get off it yourself. You're not this jack of all trades who's able to go and hijack a ship, pilot away.
We got to work together because the threat is too big.
Yes, exactly. So it's kind of like that. And once again, you build up your relationships by doing personal quests while you're on these missions. In the hub world, they may say, hey, I know you're going to this next mission. My sister's out there. Can you find her?
Look out for her.
Yeah,
I like that.
I dropped my pocket watch.
Yeah, something like that. Right? And it gets now. Here's the radical thing, right? Because you romance them, and it's like I said, very much focused on character, less narrative. I guess
full nudity, sex scene, all the penetration. You see it. It's like a.
It's kind of sounding almost like a Metro.
In a way, yeah.
In a way,
it's
a little mix of all these things that I'm saying. Yeah.
Well,
doing a bit.
You say that. No. I'm not joking. I'm not bullshitting because this was the thing. You have Mass Effect sex scenes. You do. First person. You get a little crazy. Hey, listen. Mass Effect has its grounds in horniness. Might as well care. You're in a horror situation.
Baby girl, I know you just saw a family of 5 get eaten alive, but you're trying to get to Pound Town right now.
That's exactly.
I'm trying to eat you alive.
Exactly. See, you're scared. You're looking for comfort, and you may find that. But yeah, a lot of it is like, if you want to improve your character themselves, find people to help you out. But, no, I wouldn't go that route. Never mind. I ditched it in my mind immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say that there's like, in Bloodborne, you can send people to the hub world. Some of them you should not send to the hub world. But that'd be a little bit confusing with how that would exactly work in this game.
Narratively, how are you incorporating actual Reapers, the big guys?
They're not as impactful because they're more focused on like destroying the city. You're trying to focus on those set pieces. I would say that would happen. Yeah, you would definitely have situations where you're trying to outrun or avoid one of them.
Right, but it's not focused on you. It's just doing what it does.
Yes. Gotcha. It's not like because you're insignificant to them. That's why they have all those ground troops. They're the ones who are going to go clean out individual cells of people.
The more he talks, the more he wins me over. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a big backdrop because it's shit's going down. It's crazy.
Who's developing?
Really crazy. What's that?
Who's developing?
Let me make sure I got everything else. Yeah, character question for your fantasy, friendships as well. So 2 teams would be available for this. Primarily, there's one though, creative assembly. Because on the horror aspect of things, which is going to matter the most, and you want to make sure you get that right, they know what they're doing. I think under the realm of EA/BioWare, you could potentially get some people to help work out who have worked on Mass Effect games on the Mass Effect isms of it, the relationships, the writing, the dialogue choices. There would be dialogue choices. So it's not like you're just it's like Commander Shepard, but it's someone who how
are you executing dialogue?
Is
it going to be a little more binary, or is it like, are we doing the dialogue wheel?
It's like, you know how in Final Fantasy VII, you would say things to your party members and it would secretly get their affinity up.
Yeah.
It's like that in the sense of what their affinity is going up, but the things that you're saying themselves, it isn't like, here's the red, here's the neutral, and here's the blue. Good thing, bad thing, somewhat okay thing.
Is it going to be more of like a press X to get this option, press B to get this option?
And who would you, who
Like
you
a
talking
Telltale
to?
style.
Yeah.
If you're trying to play it like a game, and you're like, I want to romance the Quarian, you would choose a dialogue option you think would sit well with them, with the Quarian.
Yeah.
And so it's really, there's no order to it. It's just entirely dependent on, what do you think is the right thing, the right smoothest choice of words in that situation. But, aside from that, going back to the studio thing, Creative Assembly, they got the horror locked down. You would just need BioWare to come in some form or fashion, EA really, because they'd be the one oversighting it, I would assume, since it's their IP. To try and okay, you're developing these relationships, you're writing these characters, writing stuff that's going on in the world. That's where you bring in your more Mass Effect-oriented people. To try and make up for the shortcomings that Creative Assembly, with how they've worked on Alien Isolation, don't really have a lot of experience with, and let them deal with the gameplay functions of the horror survival game. And I think it would be a relatively not a long game, but not a short game either. Like a good middle-sized game where you're not getting too worn out.
Solid 15 hours.
Yes, exactly. And yeah. Any other questions?
I'm into this.
Something's bad.
I'm into that.
I like it.
I like that a lot. So, Phil, you've heard the pitches.
I have.
I want to hear your pros, your cons, where your leanings, all your thoughts here, man.
Now, look. I'm not just gonna write Connor's pitch off, right? Because there's some compelling stuff there.
You're only saying that because Vanillaware's not making it. That's the only reason you're not saying it. I know it's true, Phil. I know it's true.
It's not true. It's so aggressive.
It was a lot. He turns it on sometimes.
Anyway, just for that, fuck you. No, but I'm there are some elements that I really vibe with. I like the idea of running into these people in the world and then kind of bringing them back and then helping each other survive. And I like the idea of certain people will help you certain things. And maybe you don't necessarily meet every single person every single time, right? And I do think it's creative to set it on Earth. I just have the sticking point Tavin has. You don't really see any other alien races on Earth, right? At least not in Mass Effect 3. But I'm not. That's obviously doesn't mean that there can't be. Which obviously it's the rare thing. Oh, it's oh wow, the one Asari you find on Earth. Wow, wild.
There'd be more than one, of course. But
sure.
after a genocide happens,
Yeah.
it gets a little tricky.
There's another thing that you'd said that I was super into. But my obviously I have to choose Tavin's. That's more my scene. I'm not a big horror game guy.
Land of the Judges.
A little bit.
I'm not a big horror game guy. I enjoy some of them. I've never been the type to sit down after after a long day and oh yeah, let me relax and fucking just have a heart attack. Someone's jumping around the corner and fucking stalking me and wants to kill me.
I am a big horror game player. I love a good survival horror type thing, and what Connor's describing here is turning me on a lot. I like a lot of what he's saying here. I'm just curious if I'm looking at it from a publisher perspective of who is going to buy this game. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't know if that's what Mass Effect fans want. I feel like it's not nerdy enough for them. You know what I mean? Am I kind of off?
That makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like they want to get a little more granular, a little more RPG mechanics type things. But you are me as someone who has played a bunch of Resident Evil, or someone who has played Arcane's Prey, or just a bunch of Arcane stealth sim type games like that.
I think that'd be a good...
I'm getting attracted to that very much so. The some Metro, lineage there would be oh yeah.
I think for those people that are into that style of game, this is a good kind of jumping off point to get into the Mass Effect franchise.
That for sure. I think that also works both ways of of like, I mean, I
Oh,
think
Mass Effect
Mass Effect fans are just going to buy anything Mass Effect.
Getting
anyway,
into
right?
like survival horror. after
Yeah,
that,
yeah. So they're gonna go. Well, I don't know about this. I don't normally play these, but you know, it's Mass Effect, and I
Got
want
the
to.
coat of paint of Mass Effect on.
Had a really cool trailer, you know. I can do the Dead Island trailer, but Mass Effect. Have you ever seen the Take Back Earth trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking
Badass.
fire ass
Is
trailer.
that the one where the little kids
Yeah.
has the Normandy?
Kid has a spaceship
Yeah,
running
yeah.
through the cornfield,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then the kid's dead, and then the shepherd picks up the spaceship.
I've seen
So
that.
fucking
I have
good.
seen
Badass shot of the units behind him.
Yeah, so fucking good.
But no, I got to give the edge to Tavin here. I'm super into the idea of like a Mass Effect Tactics RPG. I just think that sounds super appealing. Fucking BioWare, take notes. Honestly,
I mean, I don't even
EA.
want bio like, but yeah. And this is my thing with the whole idea of it for me. I don't think Mass Effect needs to stay with BioWare. Like, I think it is one of the few franchises that can extend past its original developers and find success.
You're right. It's just one of those things where, like, when I think Mass Effect, I do always think BioWare. I don't immediately just go EA. You know? Even
Yeah.
though EA is like the.
Well, that was the
overall
thing when Connor said,
owner,
I
you
don't
know?
know if EA owns the Mass Effect IP.
They definitely should.
Pretty sure they do.
Does
They own Mass Effect. They own Dragon Age.
Oh, yeah, no, they do. It was in the process of acquiring BioWare. Because, you know, sometimes it's weird where, like a publisher will buy a studio, but they don't buy the IP. The IP remains within the rights of the studio, which is a weird thing because you own the studio, but how do you not own the IP? It's a weird ownership type shit. Kind of like. Well, I guess that's a bad example. Actually, I was going to say Microsoft with Activision, but they own those things now. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's a suitable episode.
I liked it.
I don't even need to get into my backup.
Boom.
For the minigame.
Bing bang pow.
We know how to yap.
You do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this kind of different episode of the Piggy Bank. Let us know in the comments whose pitch you liked more, and which one which one would you buy? What's your go-to here? Are you like me and you like more tactics, nerdy shit, or survival horror and you prefer Connor's thing? Pointing to himself. Anyway, make sure to give us a follow on all social media in the description. Make sure to give us any suggestions you might have on maybe your pitch. Tweet at us what your pitch of a Mass Effect game is. Connor just farted. Anyway, thank you guys so much.
I thought that was the dog.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Boys, let's say goodbye.
Goodbye.
I don't care.